Sorry.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün University of Arkansas ile lisans ve yüksek lisans bölümlerine hazırlık programlarını Lia ve Carl'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Lia, the stage is yours now.
Merhaba, Turkey. Nice to see you all today. My name is Leah Bergman-Lanier, and I'm the Executive Director of the Intensive English Language Program at the University of Arkansas. And we're going to talk to you today about studying at the University of Arkansas, about how to prepare to study, and how to make decisions about your future. So, I'm going to share my screen here. With me here is Carl Anderson. Carl is the Director of Recruitment and International Admissions at the University of Arkansas. And he and I will answer all of your questions, we hope. And so let's get started. The University of Arkansas is a land-grant university. And that means that it serves the state of Arkansas, but it also serves the world. And it's an amazing place to live. I'm originally from California, and I moved to Arkansas, and it is a wonderful place, a safe place, and a beautiful campus. And Zainab, if you want to show everybody the campus, then we'll get started.
Yes.
University did that.
Yeah. So we now are here to welcome you to the University of Arkansas. You know, I wake up in the morning and I go to work, and I always remember just what a beautiful place we are lucky to live in. And we hope that in the future you might join us. So let's talk a little bit about entering the university. As you know, since your first language is Turkish, you will need to show that you have the English language requirement to enter the university. And at the University of Arkansas, we do something that is called conditional admissions. And what that means is, if you meet the requirements for academics for the university, and you meet the financial requirements for the university, but you don't meet the English requirements, you still can receive an admission. And that admission allows you to enter the English language program. And so what you do is you come to the university and you start in the English program until you reach the level that you need to directly enter the university without having to take a TOEFL or an IELTS exam. And it's for a very nice, smooth transition. Some students are in the English program for 3 months, some for 6 months, some for 9 months, some for a year. And it's just a matter of what level you place in. And the purpose of the program is to prepare you for your academic program in order to get you ready. And the University of Arkansas has a very high safety rating. The cost of living is low to moderate, and tuition and fees are low to moderate. And we hope it's a place that would help you meet your goals. These students here in this photograph, they all started at the English program. They are from Japan and from Malaysia and from Iraq and Turkey. And they were in our program some years ago and have now graduated. The university has very, very strong support services. It's a community that's friendly, happy to have students, as you can see from this photo and from the video, that it's an amazing campus. And so being able to enter into small English classes, which have fewer than 15 students, and then to move into the university makes for a very smooth and comfortable transition. And when you're choosing an English language program, because you can come to ours or you can study in others, what you want is one that's going to do academic preparation and get you ready. Some of you may want to come only for English and not for a degree. And all of that is possible at the University of Arkansas and Spring International Language Center. So once again, I will reiterate that if you meet the academic requirements and you meet the financial requirements, then you can come into the English language program. You can also enter the university by reaching a score of 91 on the IBT or a 6.5 on the TOEFL or 550 on our local paper TOEFL. So what happens is you apply to the university, and we're going to talk about how you do that. And if you meet the English requirement, you go directly into the university to your degree program. If you don't, then you come and we test you, and you place into one of these 7 levels, all right? And from level basic to 600. These advanced levels are all very, very academic. And each of these levels will take you 9 weeks, more or less 2.5 months. And we've already talked about that, so we're going to go here. So in the English language courses, basically we have in the lower levels grammar and writing and reading and oral skills. But here in the academic levels, we combine reading and writing because we're teaching you how to do research and how to write a research paper and to be able to be ready for your academic undergraduate or graduate work. And we have not only 25 hours a week of instruction, but we do cross-cultural training and help you learn about service learning and kind of your responsibilities as a student in a new academic environment that's quite different. I think probably the intensive English program is best compared in Turkey to your universities that have a foundation year. And basically, we provide a foundation 3 months or a foundation 6 months or a foundation year as you're needed. We have lots of help outside of the classroom. We have a help desk. We have conversation partners with American students. So by doing your language work at the university, you are already adapting to and adjusting to what the campus life is like. We also do test-taking workshops so that if you wanted to take the test instead of finishing the levels, you could do that. So this is just some of our activities. We have picnics and get-togethers and a lot of things that help. We also have a student council, which is a kind of student government that allows you to interact with the other international students that are preparing for their programs as well. And so we have academics, social and cultural, and recreational activities, as well as a strong support system to move you through the program quickly. And this is the senior walk, and I'm gonna turn you over to Carl to talk about this. But when you graduate, your name will go here, along with the thousands of other students before you that have had a chance to go to the university and graduate. So Carl, would you like to take it from here?
Sure. Thank you, Leah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl, and as Leah mentioned during the introduction, I work with graduate international recruitment and admissions. And what I'm going to talk to you about for the next several minutes is kind of the transition from the Spring International Language Center, the Intensive English Language Program, into the university. So kind of put yourself into the mind frame of you've come to Fayetteville, Arkansas, you've gone through the Intensive English Language Program, you've gone through that bridge, if you will, and now you're ready to start at the University of Arkansas. And the reason that I always try to start any talk about the university with the senior walk is because, for me at least, this represents kind of the ultimate goal for students coming to study with us. So what the senior walk is, it's an 8+ kilometer long sidewalk that winds throughout campus, and it contains the names of every single one of our graduates, whether you are finishing with an undergraduate bachelor's degree or a master's or a PhD. Some students even have their names engraved more than once because they've completed more than one degree program with us. And so for me, this represents kind of the end goal of students when they come here. It represents the completion of your degree program, and students come back 10, 20 years after they've graduated, and they bring their families with them, and they show them their name on the sidewalk and talk about their time here on the university campus. So this is the only one of its kind that we're aware of here in the US, and as I said, it's over 8 kilometers long. It has about 170 total names currently on it. Leah, next slide, please. And so as you begin to think about the University of Arkansas, I want to tell you a little bit about the students that we have and the environment that we have here. So currently we have almost 1,200 international students studying with us from almost 112 different countries. We have over 29,000 total students studying with us from all 50 states in the US. But we do consider ourselves to be a very international campus, not just because of the international students and the many different countries that they represent, but also because J. William Fulbright was our campus president, a state of Arkansas representative, and then a representative in Washington, D.C., representing the state of Arkansas. And J. William Fulbright created the Fulbright Scholars Program. This program is still in existence today. You've maybe heard of it. And this program brings international students from all over the world here to the United States to study, to earn their graduate degree, and also sends U.S. students abroad to earn their degrees as well. And so we like to say that we're the home of Fulbright because this is where Fulbright came from and left his mark here on our campus. And he believed in peace through education. Most of our population is undergraduate, although we do have a large number of graduate students as well. And we have over 200 academic programs for students to choose from. We are a large public university located in the northwest corner of the state. And later on, I'll talk a little bit about our location, about Fayetteville, and show you a map as well. Even though we are a large public university with actually over 29,000 students now as of this semester, we're still able to maintain a small faculty to student ratio of 1:19. And this is important because it means you'll have direct contact with not only your classmates, but also with your faculty, your major professors, your advisors. And so we think that's a very important thing that we're able to maintain for our students here. Next slide, please, Leah. We do want our students, once they get here, to become involved on campus. We do believe, obviously, that your education is very important, that it's, why you have come here to the university to study. But we want to make sure also that you're getting involved outside of your classes, that you're becoming engaged on the campus, that you're meeting people, that you're making friends, that you're developing what I call your soft skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills, and other skills that maybe you can't learn as effectively in the classroom. And so we encourage students to get involved in a number of activities on campus. We have about 400 total registered student organizations on campus, and many of those are international student organizations. And this is just a small listing of them here. But you can become involved in one or more of these student groups. You might become, eventually the president of the group, or the treasurer, or the secretary. And these are ways, again, not only to meet people and to make those connections that are important on campus, to be plugged into the campus, but also to develop those soft skills that are going to be very important to you, later in life, in your career and beyond. So we are a large university, but we really are intentional about getting students involved. And I always tell students when they talk with me, especially if they're concerned about the size of the university, I tell them, you'll be very surprised, I think, how quickly, a month after arriving on campus, even sooner, how quickly you will be walking across campus, and all of a sudden you'll realize you recognize people and they recognize you, and you know their names, and all of a sudden, that campus becomes a lot smaller than it maybe appeared at first. We also want to make sure that you have all of the resources that you need to be successful on campus, whether that be academic, health, mental health, social. We want to make sure that you have everything that you need to be successful here through your 4 years or 2 years or however long you're here to work on your degree. And so we have our International Students and Scholars office here on campus. I kind of refer to this office as almost your home away from home while you're here on campus, because they will offer lots of different student programming. They will assist you with your immigration resources, with work permits if you decide to work on campus, which you can do up to 20 hours a week while classes are in session. They also coordinate the new International Student Orientation the week before classes start, and that will give you an opportunity to learn all you need to know about the campus, meet some of your professors, meet other new students, and already start to form those friendships. They'll take you shopping off campus if you need supplies for your residence hall or apartment. We also, of course, have the Spring International Language Center, which will also be your home away from home while you're with them. They provide the same types of resources that the International Students and Scholars Office does while you're with that program. And Leah's, of course, already discussed the wonderful opportunities that you have with Silk. We have, I think, about 15, I lose track, but about 15 different residence halls on campus. First-year freshman students are required to live on campus their first year. After that, you can move off campus. Graduate students do not have to live on campus. But one of the residence halls that I'd like to mention is Holcomb Living Learning Community. This is a residence hall that is essentially 50% international students and 50% domestic students. And it's an intentional cultural immersion environment where students learn about different cultures and customs through different intentional activities like international potlucks, different types of language activities, workshops. We also have our Class Plus, which is our main academic support network. This includes our Quality Writing Center, our Math Tutoring Center, our Enhanced Learning Center. So essentially, if you are having any sort of challenges with any of your classes, you can go to the Class Plus Center. Actually, it's now our Student Success Center, and request to work with a mentor or a counselor in the area that you're struggling in the most. I've already mentioned the new student orientation. We also have the Pat Walker Health Center on campus for all of your health needs, your physical health needs, your mental health needs. And again, we want to make sure that you're connected to campus, that you have the resources that you need. For all of our graduate students, we have a graduate support office on our campus as well. And oftentimes your colleges and programs at the graduate level will also have support resources for you as well. So whether you're an undergraduate or a graduate student, we will make sure that you have the resources that you need to be successful while you're here as a student. Next slide, please, Leah. So what I want to talk to you a little bit now about is the application process for both undergraduate and graduate students. And I guess I want to start by stressing a little bit the difference between the undergraduate or bachelor's process and the graduate process. First of all, if you are a prospective graduate student looking for a master's or a PhD, what you really want to do first is reach out to the graduate program that you're most interested in, the graduate program coordinator. And I can help you to do that if you reach out to me, if you email me. And the reason for this is, at the graduate level, it is the program that you're applying into that will make the admissions decision, not the international admissions office where I am. And so it's important to have some early conversations with the program. Let them learn about you, who you are, your academic background, why you're interested in this particular program here. It's also important to make sure that you're learning what their specific admission requirements may be. GRE scores, graduate record exam scores, for example, are set by the program, the specific scores, not by the graduate school or the international admissions office. So if you're a graduate student, reach out to the program first, learn about the program, what they're looking for in a student. As an undergraduate student, it's a fairly straightforward process. And actually, at the graduate level, it's a fairly straightforward process as well. There's just a few more items that you need to think about. So as an undergraduate bachelor's degree student, you'll have an online application to fill out, just as you will if you're a prospective graduate student. You'll have a $60 application fee, which is the same for undergraduate and graduate. You'll need to submit your official academic records or your transcripts. So for undergraduate students, if you're coming in directly from your secondary school, that would be your secondary or high school transcripts. If you're coming in as a graduate student, it may be your undergraduate transcripts, or it may be your master's transcripts, depending upon what education level you're applying into. You will need to submit the official test scores, so proof of English proficiency, unless you are going through the intensive English language program first. If you're an undergraduate student, we highly recommend that you submit SAT or ACT scores. If you're applying for scholarship consideration as an undergraduate, which I'll talk about here in a moment, you must submit SAT or ACT scores. At the admissions level, what we use SAT or ACT scores for is course level placement. So they won't affect your admission status, but we do use them to place you in the appropriate starting math, reading, writing, etc. level. If you're a graduate student, as I already mentioned briefly, you'll need to submit the graduate record exam or GRE scores. Through fall of 2022, to think about the year we were in, some of our graduate programs have decided to waive the GRE score requirement, or to defer it. So you can go to the International Admissions homepage, and there's a link right in the middle that will take you to information on programs that have agreed to waive it, or you can email me and I can let you know. But it's important to kind of prepare for having to take the GRE, especially if you're looking to apply after fall of 2022, when I anticipate that most programs will revert back to the normal GRE required. Graduate students will need to submit letters of recommendation, typically 3, and then also a personal essay or statement of purpose. The statement of purpose can be very program specific. If you're applying into a PhD level program, it often will be a research statement. And one thing to mention about PhD prospective students and connecting with your program beforehand, at the PhD level, it is very important in considering the research match. So you have a very specific research topic that you're interested in coming into the program. It's very important to find a faculty member within the program who also shares that same or similar research interest, because that will often be your faculty, the faculty member that you will be working with throughout your time working on your PhD. So again, for graduate students, it's very important to reach out to the program before you begin the application process, to learn more about the program, what they're looking for in a successful student, to try to find that research match, to learn, what their minimum score requirements may be, etc. And I know Leah always has some good advice on this topic as well, so I'm going to let her jump in quickly.
What I would say is, if you're applying for a master's degree, whether it's a master's degree in science or a master's degree in arts and sciences, you will need to apply in the very similar way that you do for an undergraduate program. But it is important to look at what kind of research people are doing. But where it becomes really, really critical to have that research match is for the doctoral programs. And it's important to know that a doctoral degree in the United States is a research degree. And it prepares you to be a professor or a researcher, whereas a master's degree gives you a strong foundation in your area and your field that you will be able to get a good job with a master's degree. And if you are then planning on to go into the professoriate, then you want to start looking at a PhD degree. The other thing that I think is really important to understand is when you are making your application to the university, it's different than in Turkey, where you have to get all your documents together in line, ready, and submit them together. At our university, you can open your application form and pay your fee, and you're started. And then you will receive messages that say, thank you very much for your application. We still need. So that as you put your papers together, as you put your test scores together, as you put together your essay and your letters, you can do those over a period of time. Of course, your application is not complete till everything is. But once you can open your application, it'll kind of get you started. Sometimes it's hard to get started. And so I want to encourage you to think about that idea of just open the application and get yourself started. And then write to a faculty member, write to me, write to Carl. We will be happy to answer your questions, and we will give you our contact information a bit down the road. But I can tell you, as someone who has gone through a master's and a PhD, that they're very different degrees. And it's important for you to know that a master's degree is a body of knowledge that you become an expert in, and a PhD is a research degree in that area or another area.
And the nice thing about being able to start the application process, save it, go back is, number one, you can kind of take some time with it if you start early enough. You don't have to rush things, and that's the biggest mistake that I see that students make is they rush, especially at the graduate level, they rush their personal essay. They don't give enough time for their letters of recommendation, etc. But also,
and I can tell you that essay is really, really important at both the master's and PhD, but particularly at the PhD level.
But the other nice thing about the process is, as Leah already kind of alluded to, is you have time to then ask us questions if you're at a particular point in the application process and there's something you don't quite understand. You have time to pause, save it, ask us, and then, you know, go back and complete it. So the main thing too is start early. Give yourself plenty of time to get everything in, especially at the graduate level. Make sure you're asking for your letters of recommendation ahead of time. Most programs require 3, so I always recommend ask at least 4 recommenders, because inevitably, you know, somebody will forget to submit or it'll come in late. So ask early. I just completed a letter of recommendation for someone yesterday, and he reached out several months before the deadline, and I was so thankful for that, because I could take some time to think about it and think about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. So don't underestimate the power of letters of recommendation. Don't underestimate the power of a personal essay or a research statement. Those can often be the deciding factor between 2 almost identical students in terms of academics and test scores, etc. So,
and I would say that your statement of purpose is what it's called. That this statement of purpose and your letter for a graduate student, it basically says, this is what I've done, this is what I'm interested in researching in, and this is what I want to do in my future, and how all that comes together that makes you qualified to do that research with a faculty member. And also, if you've identified a faculty member, it's good to put their name and say, I'm very interested in the research that Professor Smith is doing in cell and molecular biology or whatever. And there's another degree that we have in the United States that's kind of unique. It's called the Masters in Fine Arts. And if you are in art or theater or music, the MFA, not an MA or an MS, but an MFA, is the PhD of art. And here at the University of Arkansas, we have amazing programs in art and art history and art practice. We have a very well endowed School of Art and music. So be thinking about things beyond your mind, but what feeds your soul. So, all right.
The application deadlines for undergraduate students are fairly straightforward. If you're applying for the fall semester, it's June 1st. If you're applying for the spring semester, it's October 1st. For summer session enrollment, it's March 1st. Now for graduate students, those are the graduate school deadlines, but a lot of in fact, I would say most of the graduate programs have their own separate, typically earlier deadlines. And so again, I sound a bit like a broken record, but it's important to reach out to the graduate program that you're wanting to apply into early and find out what their specific application deadline may be. Now, these deadlines for undergraduate students, what they represent are the point at which, if you have everything in by June 1st or October 1st, we can have everything evaluated and an admissions decision made in time for you to then be able to have your materials in hand to make your visa interview, receive your visa, make travel arrangements in time to start in the fall or spring semester. If you submit your application materials after these dates, they will still be reviewed. And if possible, we'll get everything evaluated and a decision made in time for you to start in the semester that you applied. However, we can defer your admission by up to one semester as well. So if you get everything in on July 1st, for example, and and it's just not possible to get everything done and get your visa and everything in time to start in August, we can defer your start date up to a semester. Now, I still encourage you not to wait until these deadlines. Get everything in earlier if you can. But I did just want to mention that because I get a lot of questions about, are these firm deadlines? Are they rolling deadlines? So next slide, please, Leah. One thing that I want to mention very briefly before I go into the last couple of slides about Fayetteville is funding. And I'm always very not cautious, but when I talk about funding, whether it's undergraduate scholarships or graduate level graduate assistantships, I always encourage students, if you have specific questions about scholarships, about amounts, about what the committee will look for, or if you have specific questions about graduate assistantship funding or other graduate level funding opportunities, please reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to have a more detailed, in-depth conversation with you. But I do want to mention that for undergraduate students, we do have, for new incoming freshman students, we have scholarships that are available for students entering during the fall semester. And the application window, if you will, is November 15th, I always say November 1st, to February 1st. The key is to apply early because those scholarship applications for freshman students applying for the fall semester, those scholarship applications are reviewed as they come in. And so if you can get your application in by the first part of November, you can guarantee that it's going to be one of the first applications reviewed for funding. And if you have a very strong academic profile, if you have strong SAT or ACT scores, if you have a very strong GPA or grade point average, if you have a really strong essay, scholarship applications do require an essay, you'll stand a much better chance of being awarded some sort of scholarship than if you wait and apply in January, for example. Most of the awards that are available are going to be partial awards, so they're not going to be a full ride scholarship, but you can, to a degree, stack scholarships. And then once you're on campus and enrolled in classes, you will also then typically be able to apply for additional scholarship consideration through your individual program or college, be that business or engineering or whatever college or program you're applying into. For graduate students, we always encourage you to apply for a graduate assistantship. These are typically awarded directly by the program you're applying into, although there are some administrative type or general graduate assistantships available throughout campus, for example, in the graduate school, or maybe in the health center or the student union. But a full-time GA position is 20 hours a week, and it's typically either research-based, where you're partnered with a faculty member assisting he or she with a research project. That's very typical at the PhD level. Or it could be a teaching-based, where you're, again, partnered with a faculty member assisting he or she with teaching an undergraduate level course within your field. For 20 hours a week, your tuition is paid for, and you also receive a monthly cost of living stipend for rent, utilities, kind of your basic cost of living. You would be responsible for your student fees and about 40% of your student insurance. Everything else would be paid for through that graduate assistantship position. It is important to note that different programs have more or less funding available for GA positions. So again, it's important to reach out early and ask the program about funding opportunities. so that if you do have that strong background, you may be one of the students considered for funding. Again, if you have questions about funding, please reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to answer those questions. This is our contact information. I did want to mention that we're located in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is in the far northwest corner of the state. Fayetteville is a very hilly, some say mountainous area. We're at the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. And as I look out my window, I'm at home right now. It's snowing outside just a little bit. We're supposed to get some snow today.
It's snowing a lot now.
It's snowing. I don't have my glasses on, so
Yeah.
I can see.
An hour ago it was dry, and now it is
Yep.
seriously snowing.
And it does snow here. I get questions from students. How often does it snow? Does it get cold? We've had more snow and ice, I guess, this winter than we typically have, or at least than we have had in the past several years. But generally, we have about 250 to 270 days of sunshine a year. Usually it's a fairly mild climate during the winter. We're also a very outdoor-oriented community because we're close to the Ozark Mountains, lots of hiking and biking opportunities. We have the Buffalo National River, which was the first national designated river in the U.S. close by. So if you like outdoor activities, if you like a friendly, safe community, a very welcoming community, we welcome you and encourage you to consider the University of Arkansas. Come through the intensive English language program, transition into the university, enjoy your time here. That's our contact information, and we can't wait to welcome you here.
Zainab, are there any questions that we could answer for people in the chat?
Yeah, there are some that
I see
have come.
that there's 5 questions there.
So, Satane,
Yes,
I hope
there are internship possibilities.
Yes, there are.
If you are, depending upon your field of study, absolutely there are internship opportunities, and you seek those through your department and also through other departments around the campus. And yes, Setane, housing options for first-year students are a number of different residence halls and other housing. And we do require first-year students to live on campus, but there's a range of more expensive to less expensive housing, but it creates community for you and a good opportunity that you can do. Gulis, for your son, who is a U.S. citizen living in the U.S., you asked if he has to work in the U.S. before he can apply, and the answer is no. If he is a U.S. resident and a U.S. Citizen, he can apply and begin just like any other domestic student. Now, we do have the same kind of rules for tuition for in-state and out-of-state tuition. So depending upon where they've lived in the U.S., then in that first year, they will establish residency in the state of Arkansas. International students don't have that option, but U.S. citizens and residents do. And it only says IELTS, yes, Khan. The duolingual is only if you were unable to get, and it's case by case. It is not a standard test that we usually use. The score that's required is a 95, but even then, it is not an academic test, and we prefer to have the IELTS or the TOEFL or the PTE, or there are still even other exams beside that. But the Duolingo is not an academic exam, and so it's only used in a case where that's the only thing you have access to. And 2 things about the Duolingo and that question is, Khan, is number one, it does require approval by the director of our international admissions office. So you would need to email a justification for taking the Duolingo to her. The other thing is, a lot of times students are asking about the Duolingo because test centers have been closed. They're not able to get in to the test center to take the test. If that is the case, what we really recommend that students do is to look at the TOEFL ITEM
home edition test, because that's a test that you can do at home online. You don't have to go in to a test center. And so we encourage students to look at that.
You can do it at any time of day or night. It's a 24-hour access exam, and it's easily done in your home. I know students who've done it on their phones. I can't believe it, but they do. I would suggest you sit down at a computer somewhere and take the test that way. It's a better test. It's a test that's more appropriate, and it's the test that we require. Let me see. We got one other question
about student life. So, Karam, I don't know if you caught the earlier part of my presentation where I was talking about some of the student groups on campus. It's a vibrant student life on campus. It's almost, I was just thinking about this actually earlier this week when I was having coffee with somebody at one of the coffee shops on campus. And I was thinking about how it's really a small community. You have different coffee shops, and it was 5 o'clock, and students were coming out of class, and they were going to the Starbucks and having coffee, and they were laughing and talking with their friends, and then they were going next door to one of the dining halls to eat. And so campus life is vibrant. The university really encourages students to get involved, because we want you to meet people. We want you to make friends. We want you to feel a part of the campus community. We want you to, and that's one of the reasons that freshman students, their first year, are required to live on campus, because we know that will get them engaged and connected to campus. And so, student life to an extent is what you make of it. You could come here, go to class, go directly back to residence hall, not get involved, not interact with anybody, or you can do the exact opposite, and you can become involved in different groups on campus. You can go to different campus activities. You can go to sporting events. You can,
make volunteer in the community. We have a volunteer center on campus that helps you with service learning. And so Carl is absolutely right. You can get very, very involved and be busy from 5 in the morning until midnight, or you can stay isolated. And that's a personal choice. But we encourage you to get involved, because it will make your experience richer, and you will meet more people. And we know that success in your future is about networking and about meeting people and about those connections that you make during your schooling. There's a question here in the chat from Ibrahim Ugur, and it's about a PhD program. He also likes the rug that's hanging behind you.
I see that.
The PhD programs in engineering, in mechanical and electrical, and are all highly ranked and very, very good programs. What I suggest that you do, Ibrahim, is to go to our website, go to the College of Engineering, and then go to electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and look at the courses and look at the faculty and look at what their research is. If you already have a master's degree, you have an idea about what exactly you want to study. And so you begin to read about the faculty so that you can write to them and say, I'm interested in doing this. Would you like to work with me, or could I work with you? And that's the way we get into graduate school, is by making those connections early, especially in our field of study. So that, what I'm telling Ibrahim, is the same for anyone who's looking for a PhD. Go to the website, go to the department, go to the faculty descriptions and see what their research is, and write to them.
And you can also email me. I did put, for everyone's benefit, both my email and Leia's email in the chat.
Yeah.
And so Ibrahim, you can also reach out to me, and I can help connect you to the graduate program coordinator as well.
Yeah.
For mechanical, this is the person that would be able to answer some of the specific admission requirements, like GRE scores, personal essay, that sort of thing. So you can always email me. My email address is there, and I'll be happy to help connect you too. But Leia had a good point about going to websites and program websites and looking at the faculty members that are listed there, what their research interests are, and when you see that match, email them. Don't be afraid to email them. I always like to say, faculty members love to talk about themselves and their programs. So, and their research.
And something else that's very important also to know when you're applying for a PhD program is that the funding for scholarships and additional assistantships, either in research assistants or teaching assistants, which will pay for your program, the faculty have grants and they have the money. So if you're looking for funding for a PhD, what you want to know is whether your work and the department matches, so that you could get a teaching assistantship. Whenever you have what's called an assistantship as a graduate student for a master's or a PhD, it means that the university will expect you to work 20 hours a week for them, and in exchange, they will pay for your tuition and they will pay you a stipend to live on. And this is for graduate students. And then you will be able to get your program funded, especially if there's a research match. Professors love to have in engineering and in the sciences someone who will do the research with them, and they will pay to have that done. So it's important to know that you can get funding that way. You can also get graduate assistantships in other departments that are not your own, but usually those are, you have to apply for them on the campus and compete with other international students who are looking for funding. So for graduate students, there is a way to fund your program. It's not always guaranteed. Sometimes it happens after you get here and they really like your work in the first semester and they will offer it to you for your second and third years. So keep in mind that there are options for funding at the graduate level that are different than the undergrad. Yes, please contact us, Ibrahim.
Any other questions? I don't see any coming in on the chat or the questions box. Again, you can always email us directly with any questions you might have about Spring International Language Center or the university. I'm also happy to do Zoom sessions if you want. Just email me and let me know and we can get something scheduled, because I know sometimes it's just easier to, ask questions one-on-one and have a little bit more time.
And we love questions,
Yes.
All questions are good. Sometimes we worry that our questions sound silly, and in fact, there's 10 other people with the same question, so don't be shy. We love questions. And even if you are applying to the university and you've not taken you don't have to take the English test to apply. You can apply, and if you haven't taken a test, then you can come and be conditionally admitted, and we will test you when you get here. And if you don't need English, we push you in, and if you need English, then you stay with us for a little while. So those are options so that you don't have to spend the money for the test right now either. And sometimes that's a better option, because we test you the day you arrive. And if you don't need English, we want you to get started in your degree program. If you do need English, then you stay for a short time to get ready for the following semester. So that's one of the advantages of having an English language program. All righty, well, let's see, there's something else just popped up in the chat. Okay. We are here.
Yep, we're here. Well, if there's no other questions, I guess thank you, everybody. It's always a pleasure to connect with everyone and to talk about opportunities for you here. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, and Leah and I will both be here to help. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We hope you have a great evening. And
yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Leah and Carl. It was another great session with you, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too. It was very informative for the attendees. And also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarız sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. University of Arkansas ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adreslerinden Lia ve Carl'a ulaşabilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda sizi 6'daki konsolosluk webinarımıza da davet etmek isteriz. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Good evening.
Bye. Thank
Take
you for
care.
coming.
Thank you, Zeynep, and everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Zeynep.